But hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Derek Epstein, and I'm the co-chair of the membership committee and I guess technically I'm still the student chapter liaison. And helping me today is Pinky, and he's the regional sections liaison. Also, if she wants to chime in during question and answer, we have Anne-Marie Dugan, who is the Vice President of Members, Sections, and Chapters, which is a mouthful, and possibly some other people on the call who will be able to answer questions when we get there. So pretty much the objective of this formation seminar is to explain to you guys what a student chapter is, how to form one, how we can hopefully help you connect with your regional sections, and then provide you with some tips and hints of how your student chapter can be successful. And then at the end, we'll have question and answers. So first of all, where can you find information? I think Pinky just posted a link.
You need to give me permissions. You currently got set to just host.
Damn it. All right, give me a minute. Nope. This was so much simpler last time. Give me a minute. Sorry.
It's always fun to watch technical people have troubles with tech.
It's more, I never had to do this during the pandemic.
You can just make me a co-host or something.
Boom. Boom. How about that?
Let's find out. Yay!
So on the USITT website, there is a page just for student chapters. If you go to membership, student chapters, it'll bring you to this screen right here, which we recently updated all the information on. So it should be clear and simple and work, hopefully, except for the circles on top of circles and numbers on top of numbers. And so, feel free to go there. It will talk about most of the things we're talking about today, but if you forget what we say here, it's always written there. The important thing is that big red button that most people miss as a button, that's where you click to apply for a student chapter, and that's important. So another thing is, another link is our USITT student and student chapter Discord group, which you can join and ask questions. And there's about 400 members, even though that screenshot says 336. And you can ask things, and usually there's some people that'll answer. A lot of people in Boston like to answer. And we're working on seeing where that goes, but feel free to join. Also, there is a Facebook group and a Facebook page, but you know, it's Facebook, so don't feel pressured to join there. I would say join the Discord group. Why start a student chapter? This is also written on that first link that Pinky posted, and we put it in words, but I'm not going to read this, but pretty much it's a neat way for you, if you're a student, or if you're an advisor, your students, but for you, if you're a student and your classmates or fellow technicians, to come together and form a group where you guys can do things that you guys want to do. I think at college, hold on one second, please. So if you think of college life, there's a lot of clubs and things that everyone else gets to do. And why can't you have one as well? I think is the nice way to put it. And the neat thing about a student chapter is it links you to USITT, where we can hopefully connect you with some neat people in the industry and in your region. Because depending on where you live, there's some pretty neat people somewhere close by. You just might not realize it. And we can talk about that later. Pinky will be able to better explain that stuff just because he knows regions and sections. But that is how I would put it. There's the stuff written on the screen and there's stuff written on the website as well. These numbers are out of date and I apologize, but I didn't have time to update it. But last time we had checked, there were 49 student chapters, but I think right now we're at about 30 because there was a dip. And the USITT student and student chapter Discord has about 350 or 95 people. And I believe there are still 15 regional sections. And if I'm wrong, Pinky will correct me.
That is correct. They have remained the same.
How to start a student chapter. There's just a few. There's a few basic things that you need to start a student chapter. You need 6 students that are USITT members. Well, I guess 6 people that are USITT members, and I think one of them needs to be your advisor. Sorry, there's a thing in the way. There's a box in the way. There we go. Oh yeah, you need to have a sponsor or an advisor who I would recommend finding a neat professor or a neat staff member. Like if you have a really great TD who really likes hanging out with you guys, I feel like that would be a good person to ask to be your advisor or sponsor. You need to hold elections and you need to have a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a secretary. And later on, if you guys get to become a really big student chapter, you can create other positions, but those are the ones that we would like you to have. Write bylaws, which we'll talk about in a minute, and complete the student chapter application. Here is a template that Batul, one of the membership committee members, and a member of the student chapter, what did we call it? I don't remember what our subcommittee was called, but we pretty much rewrote all of the formation guidelines for student chapters, and she made this great template, which there is another link to a Google Drive folder that will have this template and a fillable version of the bylaws so that you guys don't have to think too hard, because I'm sure Pinky will agree with this, and it was the same for me when I started a student chapter at my school. But you read the website and you're like, what goes into the bylaws? And so we tried to make it as easy as possible for you guys so that you can just take what we had written, adjust it for your school, because some schools have different things that, or way that they want things worded, or they might have specific rules that you need to put in there, and you can adapt it to whatever your school needs or your theater department. But that is just a basic template of what we would like you to provide the national office. And then when you go to the website, which I actually haven't clicked on it recently, I know last time we did this, I think it may have been broken. Pinky, can you check and make sure the red button's working?
Yes, 1 second. I just posted the sample bylaws.
Perfect. If the red button isn't working, let us know and we will get it to work. But this is what it will show when you're done. And it's so much simpler than it used to be. But you just fill in these things, you attach the bylaws, whatever they are. And I think you have to, you have to write a quick blurb of what you are hoping to do that year. And I think you have to send us, well, I think you can fill it in now, but you have to just provide the members and their USITT ID numbers so we can verify that you have the correct number of people. And it's just that easy. Pinky to talk to us about regional sections and how they deal with student chapters.
How they deal with student chapters. Yes. So regional sections are they're just a more focused breakout. Each region is not defined by a state, and I think that's the first thing to wrap your head around. It is defined by a region. It has to go back down to the founding of USITT, so it's not state oriented. You also notice that some areas are in 2 regions. That's once again up to the membership to decide how it lays out. That's not the national office. That's the membership in that region decided they want to overlap. Totally perfectly fine. We all collaborate. But the ultimate goal is just to have a focused resource of collaborators within your area to do workshops with, to do trainings with, to specify standards with, like what, there's the Northwest region years ago standardized what type of automation system they would all use, so that when they went to borrow equipment from regional theater to regional theater within their area, they all had the same equipment that spoke to each other. So they didn't have to deal with a bunch of adapting pieces and having two programs running at once. They were able to exchange that. So those are sort of examples of what they will be, what they work on doing. Excuse me. They're all at different levels. Some are very robust, some just like student chapters. There's a big variant between some of them been around for a long time and have budgets pretty well established. Some are recovering from the pandemic like a lot of us. Excuse me. That's my cough. I'm going to go to the next slide. I think it's the map, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
The map. So here's the map. You will see there is a little bit of some discoloration sort of in the east side of the country. That's because more than one region overlaps. Sheepishly, we are forgetting Canada. USITT is also, Canada is also part of us. So we are missing the regional sections up in Canada. So sorry about that. If any of you are from Canada, we love you dearly. We just accidentally forgot to capture that in this image. Sorry about that. But it gives you an idea. Like some of the sections are quite large. The Northwest section is ridiculously massive because it has Montana and Alaska, along with Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Texas and whatnot. So there's some pretty big areas. But the goal is that these areas sections are trying to work together more consistently throughout the year. How they interact with student chapters is pretty direct. So the goal is that you form a student chapter. We really encourage you, and you really should, I don't know why you wouldn't, would reach out to those officers. Most of the officers have student chapters as well because they're at universities. So they often are looking at ways to collaborate, whether that's competition or shared resources of workshops. A lot of these sections have the ability to fly in, cool folks to do a workshop, and you want to be a part of that and utilize that resource. So certainly hook up with them. Some of them do have membership fees for the student chapter. Some don't. I think most of them don't anymore these days. I think a lot of that's gone away over time, but there might be a few of them. I know there's a couple of them that still have a membership fee, but it's like $5 a year or something very, very small. So it shouldn't be a hurdle for you guys. But yeah, that's sort of a general overview of them. Hawaii is a little bit of an outlier. It is currently unassigned. It does not have a regional section. They usually play with California or the Northwest section, but they technically are between sections at the moment. It's just a factor of their distance from the mainland US. A couple things Derek didn't touch on with the comes to student chapters. Actually, back it up. The regional sections, sorry, let me back this up. Not student chapters. Sections is that each regional section is required to give out 3 conference passes to students in their regional section, particularly the student chapters. So getting conference passes is a good reason to get in contact with those regional sections. They do have those that they have to give out every year. What else are we missing? I think that's the general review that's come to mind. I think our next slide, yeah, it's just.
Is no? Q&A. So we have a few people on the call who can hopefully answer most questions. And if we can't, we can find the answer and get back to you. So I know we talked really fast, but thankfully it's not that complicated. So that's the good thing. But feel free to ask us any questions. And we know you guys haven't been able to read through the student chapters page on the website, which is fine. So if you end up asking a question and the answer is there, we won't make fun of you, we promise.
Derek, how many high school teachers are on this call?
I don't know. That's a great question.
The last one.
Oh. No, I think 2 people talked over each other. What did you say? Yeah.
I just wanted you to repeat. We need a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, and what was the last one in order to create a chapter?
A secretary. And then if you guys, Dana, I'll get back to your question in a moment. If you guys get desperate and you don't have 4 people that want to be officers, you can do a treasurer secretary, and I don't think anyone will get mad at you. I don't know. Is there, Zoom still has reactions, right? Is it simple? I was gonna say, if you're a high school teacher, can you, how about this? Put an emoji in the chat. Mostly just because we're curious.
I don't think they can because you've got the chat only turned off. Yeah.
I didn't set it up, I promise.
Oh, did the office set this one up?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Can you guys do reactions?
Give me 1 sec. Profiles.
Yes,
oh, look.
They can do reactions.
Oh, so I need to choose a reaction. Wait, which reaction hasn't been done?
So let's try it again. So doing a reaction, if you're from a high school, put up a reaction, whatever you want.
Yes, please.
1.
Dana, it looks like Ryan might be our only high school person, but welcome, Ryan, and don't feel
or 2. Maybe
focused out. Oh, 2.
Say, for the high school folks, so that they understand that unlike the university community, their students do not have to become national members.
Correct.
That only the sponsor needs to be a national member.
Yes, which I should have made clear, and I'm going to write down to make that clear next time in PowerPoint.
And also that even though they may not be national members, they are more than welcome to become regional members. And we're one of those outliers. Midwest charges $5 to be a member of the Midwest region.
Yeah, and I know that New England, I think, was $15. Yeah. But if you show up to one event and there's food, then it seems worth it. Lily has a question.
Hi, yeah, just to clarify, you said that we have to have 6 people who are national members, and that includes the sponsor?
No, I think it's.
I have the same question.
It's
No,
6.
6 students. And the sponsor has to be a national member as well, but it's 6 students and then the sponsor.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for misspeaking. I think I saw 6 and then sponsor next to each other, and I put it together.
And what they do sometimes, if it's a cost thing, then they will collect dues from everyone, and they will use the dues to make the officers national members. So there's not a burden on those 6 students alone.
Yeah, the membership can be paid monthly as well. We did change that recently. But yeah, a lot of the student chapters either get a sponsor, when the local rental houses, like that, or yeah, they might do a dues collection to help cover that cost. They hit that mark.
Emily, you have a question?
I do. So we formed our chapter last year and we're looking for info on how to re-up, because I know we have to reapply every year. Can you just briefly touch on that process? Is it just submitting the same materials again or what?
It's pretty much just submitting the same materials, and we're assuming the reason you have to do that, to which, like I said earlier, it's so much easier than it used to be. But the main reason is because we need you guys to update us on your new officers, because we're assuming you did elections either at the beginning of the year or at the end of the last school year. And what happened a lot, and thankfully isn't happening that much anymore, is that we would have a list of officers and we would go to write to them, and they would all be wrong or graduated or not be affiliated with the student chapter anymore. And so pretty much all you need to do is take that same bylaw, unless you changed anything, but just resubmit the bylaw and click the big red button and tell us who the new officers are and who your advisor is. That's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Laurel, you have a question.
Hello, I actually have 2 questions. We're with the University of Florida and we're trying to start a new chapter this year. My first question was, are graduate students allowed to be involved in a student chapter as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely. And I feel like that is even better if you are, and more so if you're at a school that also has undergrad, like theater students. I think Pinky has experience with this, and then I'll touch on whatever he doesn't say.
Yeah, I would, if you wanted a good example, you could look at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. They have both the graduate and undergrad program, both within their student chapter. They did something quite unique with their bylaws, and I think it was to ensure that their undergrads weren't ran over by the graduate students in control of the student chapter. So they actually have parameters that limit the graduates students' authority and ability to be elected within the chapter. That might be something you want to look at, because they did find that became a problem early on, accidentally, of course, right? The graduates are very gung-ho, they're a little bit more knowledgeable, so they tended to accidentally take over. So that's the one thing I would say take a look at. And there's a few other colleges that have that as well, but I know School of the Arts specifically does have bylaws that put some caps and limitations there to help garner the undergrads still having that input.
Okay.
And I would say one thing that we worked on with our formation guidelines is succession planning. And a good way with the grad students, or just in general, is one thing we had talked about is having, if you have grad students and undergrads, that make it so the secretary or the treasurer or made up position are get to be undergrads or something, and then, or something like that, work that into your bylaws if you can. And I think that'll make it so your officers are more diverse, but also it makes sure that undergrads get a chance to be on the student chapter board and can move up. But back to what Pinky said, just parameters or protections for the undergrads. And what was your second question?
I just wanted to confirm then the only fees that we might have associated are regionally based. Is that true? And is that fee per, I know you said it's per year, is it per member or is it per organization?
It's up to the regional section.
Okay. And then the only way we get like the lower priced like registrations or things like that, that's all through the regional section, right?
No, so lower price things once is all tied to their membership. So the students want to get the discounts, things like that, or discounts to the conference, they would have to be a national member for that.
Okay. So if they're a national member and they're in the student org, it's like a discounted rate, or I'm a little confused about that.
Yeah, so the regional sections run independently. So sort of think of them as almost a different company, if you will. Actually, they're technically a franchise. Most of them are.
Okay.
There's a couple they're not. So the national office and the student chapters are tied together. Mm-hmm. So you could be one or the other or both. But you don't have to be a student chapter student to get the discounts for being a student. You can just be a student in the national and actually have the same level of discount. And then the regional sections, they build their own parameters around what they qualify. Most of them don't give out the free tickets to any of the students but the student chapter students. And that's a choice for them to roll out their system, but that's the only difference maybe.
Okay, awesome. I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I think I saw another hand, I thought.
Yeah. Rowan?
Yes, that's me. My name is Rowan.
Rowan.
I'm with, I go to school in Ohio. I'm at Bowling Green State University. Last time we had a chapter, I think my professor said about 7 years ago. So we're trying to restart. And I guess my question was, is there a deadline that we have to apply for a student chapter for? Or is it just like you can apply anytime and then it renews like annually? I thought I remember reading something on the website about something about like October to October, but I just wanted to confirm.
So there technically isn't.
Yeah.
We
encourage a deadline sometimes, but they'll take it whenever. Just make that's the important part to remember. If you see a deadline, the national office will take it if you miss that deadline.
We encourage September and October when you guys come back to school and are getting things started and are most likely forming your student chapter, but we didn't want to put a end time on it because let's say a whole bunch of students from your school went to the national conference in March and you were like, I want to form a student chapter. We're not going to be like, you can't form a student chapter in March because that's dumb. But if you guys did want to form a student chapter in March, all you have to do is fill out the application and then in a year or in September, when you guys probably have a new board, just resubmit the little form again.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? I have two screens, so it's very confusing. The camera's over here and the desktop's over here. Anne-Marie, is there anything else you wanted to share? Did I miss anything?
I don't think you missed anything at the national office. I just wanted to share a couple of things like locally at your university that USITT can do, or what we've learned over the years that you can do with your chapter. So our chapter, we take about between 14 and 20 students a year to the conference, and it's paid 80% by the dean of our university because our chapter became so popular and therefore powerful. They have a representative in the faculty meetings. They have a representative on the seat selection. So as you build your chapters, things within your program that you can do to have a voice that some don't have. So those are things to think about. And if you ever want any advice that, you should just reach out to me and I can connect you our chapter and how they're doing it. One of the coolest thing they have is they call it Popportunities. So they have now all the local theaters in Pittsburgh sending them any overhire calls that they have. And then they send it out to their membership. So then the students who want to work and apply for those jobs and know what those contacts are. So I get many of them every week and I send them on and they get them themselves too. So those are a few things you can do locally within your university that really can help you have a voice within the university as technical theater students. But that's all I have. Thank you, Eric.
I'll add actually one more thing onto that. So I have found, so I've been in student chapters coast to coast and run them coast to coast. When you call up a company that's on tour or it's a local company and you say that I've got a student chapter with USITT, can we borrow some gear for a demo? Can we come do a tour of your show? Can we, et cetera, et cetera? Almost every time the answer is yes, because you have that notoriety of being a student chapter. They're recognizing that these students are putting forth, not just going to get their degrees, but they're putting forth a little extra effort to continue their studies and extracurricular activities. We've had, maybe I shouldn't say this. I won't say which company. There are touring companies that will literally give your entire student chapter tickets to their touring show, center row seats, because they want to encourage them to get excited to come one day to work for them. That is very common to see along with backstage tours. Gear borrowing, very common. If you're a school, that doesn't have moving lights, but the students want to play with them, almost every or rental house will lend them out for free to a student chapter. That's very common as well. So know that that title does come with some extra to help support you guys, especially if you're near Sapsis rigging. Uncle Bill will always help out in any way he can if he's lending something out or doing trainings. And a lot of times there are people who are touring around. So if we know there's certain members of the Institute that are traveling around, we will sometimes reach out to the student chapters in those areas and say, hey, did you know that, Jones Howard is going to be in your city? Do you want us to connect them with you to do a workshop? Things like that. So there's sort of how to put that? There's all these other little side things just by having that title of being able to say that you're a student chapter.
Laura, you have a question.
I do. It's sort of an unusual question. Is there any prohibition on a USITT student chapter also having another identity within an institution? I'm asking because my school has the 50-year-old technical theater club already that's extremely well established, and I'm wondering if they could sponsor a USITT student chapter sort of under the umbrella of their existing organization.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. There are a lot of them where the theater, there'll be the drama club, but then the USITT section of the drama club is separate because there's this acting students and the production students. So they'll sometimes be combined at the university level. That's fine.
And it really comes down to the school itself. For example, like what Pinky just said, at University of Wyoming, where I was, there was ASOPA, which is the Associated Students of the Performing Arts, actors. And then there were the technicians, and ASOPA tried to get us to form underneath their umbrella. But depending on your school, you can just form another organization and still get your own funding, which is what I would recommend you do if you can, because the less people, having other officers telling your officers what to do sounds lame. So if you can form a new one, there's nothing on the USITT side that says you can't. It really just comes down to your school.
Thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, and what Pinky just said is what I had forgotten to come back to, was if there are any theater companies in your region or close to your school, you should, and not necessarily theater companies, but manufacturers, or I don't know, let's say ATC is in your backyard, you should reach out to them because they want to talk to you, especially because you never know, one day you might be working for them, and that's a great way to get your foot in the door. Stuff like that. Did anyone else have any questions? No? Well, cool. I posted both my and Anne-Marie's email address in the chat. So if you guys have questions after this, feel free to send us an email. And I do know that the national office recorded this. I don't know. I think they just posted to the website when they're done. Hopefully they will edit out my technical difficulties at the beginning. And thank you, Pinky, for your help, and Anne-Marie for your help. And I think that's it. And hopefully we'll see you guys. Oh yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys at the national conference in St. Louis in March. I think it's March. It's March. And then Seattle the year after.
Or did you have another question?
Or were you just clapping? I think they were just clapping.
I was just clapping to say thanks.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Eric.
All right. Well, see you guys around. It's nice to see you guys again.
Have a good one.
Take care.